Hey, what's up, yo? This is Noka2 coming at you again with a second YouTube video, Comic Call number 2. First, I want to start off by saying Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope everyone had a peaceful as well as feastful holiday. I also want to thank everyone that may have caught my first video. I haven't had the opportunity to show my son. I was trying to wait for when I had a couple of videos in the queue for him to watch, because I know as soon as he sees them, he's going to be on me to do a video with him. So I did hit up my sister to watch the video, and she thought it was hilarious because she remembers that kid across the street hustling me with those tracing drawings, and she thought that I portrayed my pops to a T. Also, I wanted to do another video fairly quickly because I want to show some of these books that I have in my office so I can go ahead and file them away. Usually my home office is probably at a level of chaotic cluttered, but I've been waiting on a large shipment of Mylars and fullbacks from E. Gerber. They had been on back order. I guess a lot of people across the country are now using them, and it's so much cheaper to buy them directly from them. So I usually buy them in bulk. Like I mentioned before, the industry of collecting comics today is not what it was back then. And, initially comics were put in poly bags and just regular backing boards, and those bags and boards are really only safe to store comics for about a year or two. Then they start leaking, for lack of a better word, acid and gases into your comic and can damage them. So Mylars are acid free, as well as the fullbacks, and so they are the best protection for your comic. I have replaced all my comics before with new poly bags and backing boards twice before I finally learned about a Mylar and backing board. And so over the years, I've been trying to replace all my collection, and that I've probably at least 60%. If you buy them in bulk, one Mylar and one fullback together is probably about 10 cents if you buy them in large enough bulk directly from E. Gerber. So that's what I try to do. And, it takes time to rebag boards. It takes money. I mean, if you do the math, that's quite expensive. Again, taking the time to put them in the boards and bags. And I've already done all my Bronze and Silver Age comics. Most of my key modern, and probably all my key modern books I've done, but I'm steadily working on it. I still have quite a few to go. I try to keep all the comics that I buy current, as well as that I buy at sales and hunts in the office, until I can bag them appropriately. So like I said before, I'm not going to make a video that lasts that long as my first intro video. So I'm going to just start showing some books. So these books I'm going to show are from a sale I went to probably early October. It's about 3 hours away. There's a store that has a sale a couple times a year. They are probably the largest comic retailer in their state, and they buy collections all the time, and then they sort through them. They pick out their key books they want to display on their wall, and then the rest of the books they sell for $1 in this, that's sorted. And they open it up, and this is the first time I've been able to make their this mega sale. And I've been all over the country for work, and I've visited a lot of shops, and I have never, ever seen a store with this many comics in one location for $1. And I've never visited a store with this many comics, period, in one location, with the exception of probably the mega store of Mile High in Denver. And one of the shops in Midtown is pretty close because they have a couple of floors. But but all those books aren't $1. And so, I mean, they probably had well over 500,000 comics in one store. I mean, it was just long box after long box after long box. I've gone to a lot of stores, and usually I go through every single box. But I've never gone to a store or a sale where I just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm too tired to keep looking through boxes. I've got enough comics on this trip, and if I miss out, I miss out. But I I stopped. I couldn't even go through all the boxes, and that's saying a lot. I told my wife I was coming home because I was tired. I couldn't even go through all the boxes, and she was surprised, and she understood. So again, all these comics were $1. Most of the comics were Bronze Age and up. Majority were most modern. Bronze Age probably was maybe 30% of the comics. They did have a few scattered Silver Ages, but nothing of key or major series that people would want. They were older, like Gold Key. I'll show you. I did pick up a couple, but they were not major mainline series. So this is Shade the Changing Man #1. These were both in VF Plus condition. I thought that was a good find for $1. I bought this comic. I have this already in my collection. Thought I'd show it. It has been shown in a lot of videos of late. It's from 1988. I think they were just producing so many comics. I don't think the editors could catch everything, to be honest. But this comic here, it's really a novelty comic because there's a villain in here who gets his powers by snorting cocaine. And even in this comic, he does, do that. He snorts some cocaine and, he has some powers. And so, I just think that that's just something that you're not going to see very often. And for $1, that book probably goes for, it's probably cover price book, maybe $2-3. I mean, maybe a little bit more than cover price. People sometimes ask for more, but it can be found in the wild for pretty cheap. So, but it is kind of hard to find and a clean cover because it is an all white cover. This is Black Panther #5, J. Scott Campbell cover. I believe this is like volume 2 of Black Panther. This is the first appearance of Shuri in the Black Panther costume. I think when the Black Panther 2 movie comes out, if Shuri is portrayed as Black Panther in that movie, this book will definitely heat up. Currently, it's probably in near mint condition like this book, $20. An undervalued book, in my opinion, X Factor #24, first appearance of Archangel. This book here, again in near mint, is probably, on a good day, you can probably find it for about $10. But usually you're going to be paying $15, maybe $20 for this comic in near mint condition. I think if Disney does it right with the X-Men in the MCU, then this book will definitely heat up. Adam Hughes, again, one of my favorite cover artists. Catwoman #62. Usually, again, if I find it in high grade, I'll pick it up. I have his whole run, but for $1, I'll pick that up. X-Men Classic number 79, Adam Hughes cover. This is my favorite cover of X-Men Classic that he did in his run at the end of the series. This is a reprint, obviously. This reprints Uncanny X-Men number 176. This is X-Men 166. This isn't really a major key, but this is near mint, and it is the first appearance of Kitty Pryde's dragon, Lockheed. So I thought that was a great find for $1. It's interesting. I see Uncanny's not even listed on here, but this is Uncanny X-Men. I mean, most of you know they did do another series called X-Men, but this is Uncanny X-Men, and I think the only X-Men title they had back then was X-Men Classic when they were reproducing the original series. This is Marvel Premiere number 35, first appearance of 3D Man. This was in high grade, near mint, minus. I picked it up for $1. Now this book here, X-Force number 2. I mean, all of us know it's the second appearance of Deadpool, and it sells for consistently $8 to $10. And when the first movie came out and this book started gaining some heat, and I'd see it in dollar bins, I refused to buy it because they printed so many copies of this book. I mean, X-Force 1 broke records, selling 1 million copies until X-Men number 1 relaunched our new series by Jim Lee broke all records, which will forever stand this test of time just because comic shops will not do that again. They will not order that many comics again. X-Men number 1, as you know, sold 7 million copies, and that will never happen again because now, they just do multiple printing. So shops will order so many copies, and if it sells out, they'll order, they'll redo another printing, second, third, fourth printing. So when this first came out and hitting the market as, $8 to $10, I was like, that's fad. I'm not picking that up for $1. There's just too many copies. That's not gonna stand. But it did. I mean, this comic sells for $8 to $10, and so I said, well, shoot, I'm gonna play the game and I'll pick it up if I see it for $1. So X-Force number 2 for $1. This comic right here has no significance other than the cover. Marvel number 1, the Chrome edition, which, what's there to say, right? This comic sells for probably, $8 to $10, right? And, it's only selling for the cover. It's kind of a tough book to find, and particularly the Chrome edition. I think I have one other issue in this limited series of 1 of 6, and it is probably the better of the. It is probably one of the better covers. I mean, this cover here, but I think it's issue number 4. That's pretty risque also. I showed this comic in the last video about Fantastic Four 371, about how, the lower print run and, this die-cast embroidered raised cover, hard to find in near mint because it's all red. Again, no significance. But with this issue here, Marvel, I guess really the only significance is that Invisible Woman starts wearing a skanky costume now that's more like a bikini, and it's terrible. The artwork's terrible, and the costume is even more degrading, actually, for Invisible Woman. But, she wore it. And was proud of it too. But I show that cover because this is kind of the other one, in that line that I was talking about, how to find these covers in this time period in high grade mint, near mint, with no spine ticks, foil cover of Avengers 363. If I see those in near mint, I pick them up. This comic here, Guardians of the Galaxy number 13. At first they're touting is this the first appearance of Cosmic Ghost Rider. I say it's not. Because as you know, Cosmic Ghost Rider is Frank Castle. It did get some heat for a little bit. For $1, I think it might go for $6 to $8. I think it went for a little bit more at the beginning, but I don't think it's I personally wouldn't pay more than $1 for it. Now this comic here, Mercenaut showed this book recently. This book sometimes get touted as the first Cosmic Ghost Rider cover appearance because of this right here. As you know, Cosmic Ghost Rider is Frank Castle, and that Thanos 13 blew up when that got revealed. And so, because of this little image here, people say it's his first appearance. And so this book goes, for a little bit of money, not a whole lot. This comic here is more of a preview infomercial, in that they just show a drawing of characters in this by Marvel Knight creators, and they give a little backdrop of possible stories, and they don't even have this in the book. It's just a Punisher, and then they have Ghost Rider and different pages, and they talk about potential storylines. What is interesting is in this book, they do other characters, like there's a female Moon Knight in there. And so I think that as Marvel continues to do new characters, this issue could be touted as the first appearance of some of those characters. So, and this book is hard to find. I don't know what the print run was of this, but it goes for $8 maybe. But for $1, I thought I'd take the risk and speculate, and so I bought 4 copies of it. They had more, but I left them there. I thought, these were near men. I'd take 4 of those. This issue here, New Mutants number 25, the first cameo appearance of Legion. He recently just got reintroduced in the new ongoing relaunch of Uncanny X-Men, if you're following that. And when Legion first got announced as a TV show, this book, coupled with New Mutants 26, his first full appearance, really got some heat. And so I picked 2 newsstand copies up as well as the direct copy. They were all in high grade, so I figured, with that new comic coming out, actually I got it before he got reintroduced back in the Uncanny X-Men, but for $1, I thought I'd pick it up. This comic here is the last issue of Heathcliff. Back in the 80s, Marvel tried to do a kid line called Star Comics, and they had a lot of cartoon-like series, and this was one of them. The last issue of all of those series is kind of hard to find, and so for $1, I picked this up. I have a couple of copies. I couldn't find the other ones. They got to be here somewhere. But there's one little kind of ding in the corner, but otherwise, in sharp condition, and for $1, I'd pick it up. 52, week 7. All of you know is first appearance of Kate Kane. Week 9, her first cameo is Batwoman. And then week 11, her first full appearance of Batwoman. With her announcement in the TV show, and these books got some heat. I think they've cooled down a little bit. I know these 2 together were selling briskly for $25 to $30 pretty, regularly online when it first got announced. It slowed down some. But if you combine these 3 in a lot, they still sell for about $25. So I got a few more copies of the other one somewhere that I found. I'll show again later. But, again, nice books to have. This comic here, Newsstand Avengers 346, as you know, first appearance of Star Force. That's supposed to be in the new Captain Marvel movie, and once that got announced, this book that was in everyone's dollar bin shot up to $20. I think it's still going for, 10 to 15 bucks. Found that as Newsstand, and then 3 more copies of the direct edition. They're all in high grade, so for $1, I'd buy it. I'm not paying more than $1 for it. Moon Knight number 59. I think this may be the 3rd volume, actually. Near the end of the series, lower print run. Steven Splatt, interior and cover art. This book individually is not a high dollar book, but it is tough to find in near mint because of the black cover, and this is in near mint. And so I picked them all up that were there because they were all in high grade. Number 59. Great book to pick up for $1. Found this book also for $1. Merch not show this book because it's supposed to be the first appearance of Flex Mentallo. And I agree with him. I couldn't find that dude in this comic. I did not have this comic. This was my first copy for $1. It goes for, like $5-10, maybe a little bit more. But I couldn't find it. I mean, even if you look on Google and search it, and you look online trying to find where the panel is that he's on there, I can't really see or how that he is in that book, but it is touted as his first appearance, and but for $1 I found it, not really a big deal. Captain America number 25, the death of Captain America, allegedly, right? Obviously comes back. Variant edition. This is probably VF because there's one spine tick there. Didn't really notice it when I picked it up because I wouldn't have bought it if I noticed it. Even for $1, I wouldn't have bought that. But, this book, in near mint, when it first came out, this book was hot. I mean, it was $25 book now, and it's probably cover price, $4. But, great book still. Maybe it'll come back around. I don't know. Teen Titans number 40, first appearance of Miss Martian. Bought this comic because, again, not a high print run book, but Greg Land, with the Huntress on there looking all, I don't know, scandalous maybe. She, as you know, I kind of like Greg Land's work, even though we know that it's kind of copied from porn stars. He even admits that he uses that as his drawings, and he copies a lot of other artwork. And but in presentation, that's kind of a nice looking cover. And who knows? Maybe it'll go up in price with the movie coming out. Green Lantern number 49. This is a 1 in 10 variant by Migulari. Kind of a tough book to find in a while. This is my 3rd copy of that book. Nice book to have, I guess. Because it was October when I went to this sale, I found this book here. Now, this is a early Bronze Age book, and there's really nothing significant about this book other than the cover. It's hard to find because it's all black and high grade. This is easily a VF Plus copy. It still has a lot of gloss on the cover. I think there's kind of like one spine tick here, and there's one kind of color rub here that I don't know if it can be dry cleaned off because it's on this yellow band. I think if you try to dry clean it, it might damage it. So, but in this condition here, this is easily a $20 book. And for $1, I thought I'd pick it up again for all the reasons I just stated. Now, this book I found here, this is kind of like what I was saying, that most of the comics were that were older, that were still in this store, if they were from early Bronze or Silver Age, they weren't, mainstream titles that a lot of people collected. And I came across this book. This was a book about a cartoon that was shown in the 70s that I loved as a kid. I used to watch it, and after school. It didn't seem like they had a lot of episodes, because it seemed like I was seeing the rerun all the time. So I don't really know how many episodes they made of it. Cartoon, I think that may have come from Japan because of the animation that it had. But Battle of the Planets #1, they were called G-Force, and their leader was Mark, and they had Princess Jason, who was really in my opinion, the tough guy. He was kind of like a pimp in the group. And Tiny, and then Geop, I think is his name, and they battled this guy named Zoltar. And they had this ship that they could divide out into 5 pods, and they form back together and create this phoenix bird that would fight the bad guy. And I love this comic. I mean, this cartoon, and it's hard to find in high grade. And this grade here is probably VF. There's a little kind of bend, dog earring of this teeny bit on the corner there. But this comic is easily, in this grade, $75. $75, and it's even hard to find online. So I thought for $1 that was a great find. Alex Ross did kind of a revamp of this comic for Image and Top Cow, and I'll be curious to see if I ever try to sell it. I'm going to pair it together with this. Great cover by Alex Ross. The first issue had a couple of covers. This one by Alex Ross, and then this bad cover here by Michael Turner. Rest in peace. Also a great cover. So again, the find was that, $75 for $1. That's a great deal. But I found those to go along with it. After I found that, I was like, oh, I wonder if they have the #1 issues. And so I went hunting for it, and there they were. They weren't even together. They were in a different box. I was like, I bet you I can find it there. And I sure did, and there they were. So I thought that was a great pickup for $1. And so I'm going to end you with this. When I went to this sale, I was late to the sale. The sale had started about an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours by the time I got there. There was a parade or something going on, and so you had to park, kind of far away. I don't know if the store knew that this was happening, because the street in front of it was blocked off. You had to park, far away, probably about 6 blocks away, and walk down to it. And so by the time I got there, people were already leaving the store with stacks of comics. And when I got down to the area where the dollar books were, there were a lot of people already there. And, when I go to a sale, I go immediately first to major storyline title series. And one of the first ones I go to, like a lot of people, is, Amazing Spider-Man, Batman, key X-Men, key series. And so I went to Amazing Spider-Man, and I found this for $1 in the early Todd McFarlane and near mint. If I see his early work in near mint condition, I'll pick it up, particularly, obviously some of the keys that he's done. But for $1, Amazing Spider-Man 302, I thought that was a great find. Found this book here, 263, which I had in my collection already, which I would not pay what it heated up to after the Red Goblin series, that storyline in the new Amazing Spider-Man there at the end. This is the first appearance of Normie Osborn, Like, yeah, I mean, it got up to ridiculous, like $20, and there was no way I was paying that for for that comic. And I really got this comic uh, because of the hunt, right? Finding this comic for $1, I knew I'd be able to find this comic for $1. The next comic I found, I couldn't believe I found this in the dollar bin. Not only because it was in there, but also because a lot of people had already been through Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, there are a lot of people that have already gone through the titles. People are leaving with stacks of books, and so when I saw this book there, I pulled it out and I was like, oh, this comic must be damaged. There's got to be something ripped, and, paper, staple pull, water damage, missing pages, some huge crease on the back or something. And because I couldn't believe it was there, so I pulled it out. I looked at it, and this comic was crisp. It was crisp, like I like my chicken crispy, and that is Amazing Spider-Man 569, second print variant, first appearance of Anti-Venom. For those that don't know, I mean, this comic is easily a $200 plus book. Recent sales in this grade near mint, this is easily 9.6. Going for $200, $225, $250. If he ever gets introduced in a Venom movie or a Spider-Man, sequel that's coming out, this book will heat up even more. I don't know what the print run is, but when this was the find of the day, and so with that, I'm going to leave you, and still 30 minutes, but again, $1. Cannot believe it. So with that, again, enough said. Peace out.